Hello everybody, looks like I'm doing a live stream, so let me make some adjustments. It's been a couple weeks, no, not a couple weeks, it's been 10 days since I've live streamed, so that's less than a couple, but it's a little more than one. And yeah, I just felt like drawing, so I've been doodling for a bunch of the day, and I'm close to like having a version of Zarana from G.I. Joe that I felt like this looks like it's solid enough for me to practice some inking on. And yeah, so basically in November, there's an event called JoeVember, and it just challenges artists to draw, some G.I. Joe character every day of the month. Now, I don't have the time to do one every day of the month, but I've got a little bit of extra time right now, and I was like, hey, it's been 10 days since I did a live stream. Why don't I do a live stream? So I think that can be a lot of fun. I'm just trying to figure out a couple details here on like how I want to present this, and if anybody jumps into the chat, awesome. If not, no problem. Totally get it. So let's see. Oh, my sister jumped in. Hey, Jean. Let's see. Hello also to actually, let me pop up the chat window here so I can see it a little better. Looks like I've got Najiad, Franco, David Horn, Retro Addict, Fernando, Compared. Wow, well, thanks, everybody. I appreciate that. Like, it's always nice to have some company when you feel like sketching. So very cool, very cool. Thank you all for jumping in and joining in. Yeah, nothing too fancy tonight. Just sort of in the mood to draw. So, and I was sketching this Dreadnought. I loved. If you don't know G.I. Joe, like the Dreadnoughts are basically these sort of this biker gang that works for Cobra most of the time anyway. And I always liked this one character from it called Zarana. I don't know exactly why. I just thought she was kind of cool. So anyway. Let's see. Oh, some more people jumping in. Wow, a lot of people. Hello to Brian, Nico. Hello, Rex Racer. Let's see. Hello, Highlander. And cool. Yeah, sorry. I know it's late. It's nothing too fancy that I'm doing. I'm just doodling. Let's see. So David's telling us all the story of the first time he got a Big Mac. You're about to go to work. Awesome. Hello, Selby. Where are you in the world, Fernando? Just curious, like trying to figure out like people's time zones and stuff. Try to be more respectful in the future. Let's bust out a little technical pen here and get like a few details darkened in near Zarana's face. You are not man enough for a Big Mac. Oh, okay. Hello, James. Let's see. Hello, Dio. You're in California. Oh, wow. But you're going to work. Wow. It's some late hours. More power to you, man. Hello, Emmanuel. Hello, comic book guy. Let's see, Michigan. We've got Eastern. Yeah, it's pretty late on the East Coast. Someone said they are watching from Norway. Oh, I totally missed that, but that's awesome. Wow, Norway. Geez, actually, I chose probably a pretty terrible time now that I'm looking at it, because East Coast time, you're about to get Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty, like season 4, so I'm probably going to lose like all my potential East Coast viewers, unless you can do two things at once. But yeah, definitely wouldn't blame anyone if they choose watching the new Rick and Morty over this. If I had cable, I'd be right there with you. So I just wasn't thinking like that. But now, like all of a sudden, I'm like, well, what else would people be doing at this hour? Well, one thing they'd be doing is potentially watching Rick and Morty. Let's see. Atlantic City. Oh, yeah. Nico's in Norway. Oh, so early in the morning. Yeah. Hello, Swanky. I love Big Mac Challenge. You've eaten 3 Big Macs? That's impressive. I did once do that one episode about Archie, and I ate a bunch of, like, sliders, and that was brutal. Like, I felt terrible after eating that many cheeseburgers. But it was kind of funny, I thought. I'll answer questions. Let's see. Hollywoodland. Hollywoodland's a cool movie. That was the one where Ben Affleck played what's his name, Reeves, the first Superman. Hello, Tacky. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Zarana modeled after Wendy O. Williams. I wouldn't be surprised. The timing would be about right for that to be an inspiration. Well, thanks for catching the stream. I appreciate it. And hello, Sigamigs. Hello, Matt. That's awesome. Thanks for comic tropes, Chris. It helps a lot. Yeah, this is Zartan's sister, exactly. I always liked Zartan, and I liked Zarana. Xandar, the brother, he was nothing. But, like, I liked the Dreadnoks in general. I just thought that was a kind of a cool, weird, different type of enemy to have involved in the G.I. Joe story, and I liked it a lot. And I think that like the reason I liked Zarana is she sort of reminds me of Tank Girl, like, because I'm all into comics and comic references, and she just sort of strikes me as that. So while I'm drawing Zarana, in a way, I'm sort of drawing Tank Girl, if that makes sense. George Reeves was the TV Superman. Yeah, wasn't that what Hollywoodland was? The story of George Reeves' life? I think it was. Unless it's something else that I'm not thinking of. But I think that's what it was. I've never seen anything G.I. Joe. Is there a good jumping on point for a new viewer? Well, I wouldn't really recommend the cartoon per se. I would really recommend the Marvel comic by Larry Hama. I think that just started issue 1. They did 155 issues. The last 20 to 30 issues, maybe not as good, but he picked it up like much more recently. IDW is printing it, and like the continuity like picks right up from where it left off. And now they don't like have any obligations to like keep pumping out like new toys, so they can really like focus even more on like, you know, the characters. So yeah, I would say that's my recommendation if you want to try to get into G.I. Joe. Yeah, Gene is right. Like the cool thing about like Zarana and Zartan was that like they would change color in the sun. They would turn gray for some reason. They were all like masters of disguise, and they had something weird going on with their skin. So like and if you actually put the toy out in the sunlight, it literally changed color. So that was always kind of fun. And it was sunlight specifically, not like heat. So I don't know exactly what that chemical in the plastic was, but it was definitely like photosensitive. So I thought that was pretty dope. Hello, all day. Day. I have the old issues of G.I. Joe. Very cool, James. Yeah, just something I like. Let's see, did I miss a question here? All my G.I. Joe knowledge boils down to the silent issue and the one episode of Community. That was cool. That one, I think, was directed by Rob Schraub, by the way, creator of Scud, the disposable assassin. Any recommendations on where to start with the comics? Yeah, I would just say, like, read the Marvel comic from 1 to 155, and then it picks up with, like, 155.5 at IDW, and you can basically skip all the other G.I. Joe comics. Hello, Matthew. Have I ever played D&D? I have. Not a ton, but I have played it with some friends, and I like it quite a bit. Wish I had more time, more free time to play with my pals, because it's a blast. Yeah, definitely something cool that I also wish I'd discovered earlier when I was younger. I think I would have been way into it, but I guess just had that sort of reputation, and I avoided it. And I don't mean like, I just mean that it was like, considered nerdy, but I was into other nerdy things, so I don't know why I didn't give it a chance. Wish that I had. So I discovered it pretty late in life. Whoa, look at this. A super chat. I didn't expect that tonight. One free large Big Mac with change, says Matt Arney. So, okay, hello also to Nihilist Greek and Flop Whopper. I'm just looking this up. Is today like Big Mac Day or something? Is that what's going on? Cheapy peepee. Nice, Fernando. I appreciate that reference. Big Mac. I don't understand all the references. It's like more than one person's talking about it. Big Mac special sauce is available for purchase again. Okay. All right. Well, I'm missing something. Hello, Jorge. It says, Matt's a true gentleman and a scholar. Yep. Hello, Hydrated Toast. I've been dealing with a pretty bad pitch of depression lately, and I've been binge watching your content. Your videos have helped me a lot to get my mind off of things. I know what that's like, man. I definitely suffer from depression as well. It's rough. Will I do a video on Kamala Khan? Definitely not against it, TD Camper. Don't currently have a plan, but it's definitely a good idea for a topic. Definitely, I think one of the cooler characters that Marvel has created lately. They only really create like one or two every, couple years that they catch on and stay. So yeah, I would definitely be into the idea of talking about that. Let's see. Yeah, amazing story, David, for sure. Hello, Samuel. Nice to see so many familiar faces and also see some new faces. That's really, really cool. Thank you. I love all you guys here. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'll be here for you all. That's really nice, Fernando. That's really nice. You caught my Miracle Man video. Yeah, love Miracle Man. It's hard. I've never gone back and rewatched stuff. I know that it would probably be hard for me because I'd want to do a better overall production. But all I can do is just keep moving forward and try to do the best I can with the technology I have and the knowledge and experience that I have. I don't know if Zarana has more of these, armored shoulder gauntlets than 3, but yeah. Have I seen any Shogun Warrior comics or seen the toys? I've seen it, but I don't know too much about it. And hello to another Fernando. Someone asked me about Will Eisner, but I missed it. Sorry. I will definitely do an episode on Will Eisner. That's a really important topic to me. Any thoughts on Kane's time as Scarlet Spider? I think it was a good idea, and thank you so much for the super chat. nausea. That's amazing. Yeah, I think that that was a good idea to bring Kane back and make him be the Scarlet Spider, as compared to just bringing back Ben Reilly again or something like that. I think it was a good idea. I think redemption arcs are always interesting. I think that's definitely the way to pivot and position for a character that was formerly sort of a villain, is set them on a redemptive arc. And will they succeed? Well, they don't always have to. Hello, Brian. Yeah, JoeVember. There you go. Hello, PC. The old comic tropes intro in which you become a cartoon and walk across the screen is fantastic. Thank you. That took me a while to make back then. I just sometimes I basically just decide to teach myself a new skill for the show, something that just seems like it would interest me, and that was like I hadn't really done too much in the realm of animation, so I just decided to make a cartoon version of myself and create a walk cycle. So that was fun. That was definitely fun. I think eventually I should have, someday an actual sort of animated opening that, is sort of good. But just always trying to do something different. I'd like I get like a little burned out every once in a while, so I'd like to do something new for the new year, but we'll see. The Preston Blair Book of Animation. No, welcome, Rebel Leaf. I'm not familiar with that. But I'd be curious about it. Remember when Marvel had all those spider clones? Yeah, I made a whole episode about it, James. In my opinion, not the strongest overall era of Spider-Man, although there was still a couple good stories buried within. A lot of people that basically were introduced to Spider-Man at that time like the clone era. I get it. You sort of like whatever you first discover. It's new to you at the time, so it doesn't feel cliche or redundant or reductive or anything like that. But yeah, I personally was not a fan of the Clone Saga. But I did appreciate the issue that J.M. DeMatteis wrote that was supposedly, at the time, anyway, the death of Aunt May. That was well done. Doc Ock as Superior Spider-Man. I love that too. I am going to the beginning of this stream at 2 times to catch back up. Okay, cool. I can only imagine what I'm like at hyperspeed. I feel like I'm more than enough as it is. Like that sounds intense to deal with that much Chris. But what do I know? But definitely miss chatting with you guys on the regular. That's my favorite part of Inktober is just getting to chat with everybody. But it is very tough because it definitely occupies, or it takes up maybe a good amount of time, every single day. And there's a cumulative effect where it sort of wears on you. Doing a drawing a day, not so bad. But doing the live stream on top of that, it's harder to concentrate on the art that you're creating, I've realized. I can do an okay job inking, but actually drawing from scratch, I have a very hard time focusing on both the creativity of just a drawing from nowhere and talking to people and having a conversation. That I have a hard time with, I've realized. The ginkgo trees with their vomit-smelling fruit grow out in Washington State. Geez, I really don't know. I've never heard of them out here, but it's always possible. I heard the black spider suit is powered by waste, like the webbing and such. I think that's a fan theory. I don't think that's ever been confirmed. Any thoughts on Spider-Man Blue? Haven't actually read that one. I'm aware of it. Would love to be able to give an informed opinion since I talked about Loeb and Sale's work this week. Haven't read it, so curious what others' opinions are on it for sure, but I don't have an informed one. all I can say is I have read some other stuff by Loeb and Sale, and it's not always for me. I can't say that I'm a huge fan of either of them, but my patrons chose Long Halloween. I put that out there as an option because I do know that like they have their fan base, and I respect that there's a fan base there. I'd read Long Halloween. I enjoyed it, but I didn't remember it super well. So going back, I was like, you know what? This is actually like well done on a number of levels. Because as soon as I read it with a more critical eye, knowing that I would be, analyzing it and reviewing it, I go, there's more depth here by both the writer and the artist than I was initially aware of. So I am impressed with it on that level, that there's more to it. There really is. There are some layered themes in there, both by the artist and the writer. So it ended up being a real pleasure to do this most recent review. That said, I don't know if you guys have seen. Hello to some new people, by the way. I see Lowell and Jeffrey, Zach, and Iron Shell. Thank you for joining me. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the topic. Maybe it's something about me. My videos the last couple of weeks have no traction. They're not doing well, and I'm like, that kind of stuff makes you nervous because when you're a YouTuber, you don't have a team to use as a sounding board. Does this make sense? Is this what people expect out of me? Am I doing a good job? I felt like I've done a good job, especially on this Long Halloween. Honestly, I was proud of this episode. I really was. I was proud of it. It's not getting a lot of views, and I don't think it's me. I feel like there might be. I know that YouTube recently changed a few things in its algorithm. I don't think I'm getting recommended to viewers all the time. I think that there's a bunch of people that otherwise watch my stuff, but that they might not have it recommended to them right now. I'm not positive of that. It's just a suspicion because my views are down much lower than I would typically expect. YouTube likes negativity. That is possible. It's definitely a little concern. I mean, I don't, you folks all know, I have a day job. I don't rely on YouTube. But I want it to grow. It means a lot to me, and I'd like to make it a bigger thing than possible because then I can justify spending additional resources on, equipment, comics, someday maybe time. It means a lot to me if I can grow the channel because I do have more ambitious plans, but it can only really be justified if the channel continues to grow. And the last 2 weeks, it's been just dead. I definitely thought that more people would be interested in Batman: The Long Halloween, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's just something I'm currently very concerned about. I should look up and see if people have theories or anything or opinions. It's the algorithm. It's possible. Been watching your videos and commenting. Yep, good. A more clickbait title? It's possible. Yeah. I'm gonna spam your channel on Twitter and Instagram. Well, don't annoy your friends and family or anything like that, but it definitely always helps to be shared to potential new people. He's talking about spamming links for my stuff. Add a few top 5 or top 10 list. Yeah, maybe I should. I mean, because I could still make some fun ones. That can be fun. I guess I was just, trying to do my own thing and just hoping that it, gets noticed for what it is. But I guess sometimes you have to play the game a little, right? A little for YouTube, a little for me. Yeah, I guess I just have always tried to analyze the comics on a little bit of a deeper level than just here are the 10 best stories. This is what happened in them. I don't know. I guess I feel like you could get that anywhere. It's like, yeah, I can do it, and I'll have fun doing it. But I also feel like that's something anybody can do, as compared to like trying to do a deep dive analysis and talk about like the themes and ideas explored within a comic. That's more what interests me. I guess it ultimately all comes down to, like, what kind of a show do I want to do? And I've always turned down sponsors. I do that like almost every week. I turn down sponsors because I don't really want to have ads or to feel obligated to give something a good review someday. So I've always just tried to keep it just like, just rely on the sort of standard YouTube ads, and that's it. And my plan right now is to stay there. Can I make a Neil Gaiman PT episode? What does PT stand for? What am I missing? I would definitely be up for talking about Neil Gaiman again. I just don't know what you mean, Magic K, by PT episode. What do I think New Genesis never talked about often in comics? Don't quite understand that question either. Let's see. Just be you. That's what I love about the channel. Do I like Neil Gaiman's half of Miracle Man? I do, actually. Yeah, I do like Neil Gaiman's half. If I had to choose one, yeah, I like Alan Moore's a little bit more. But I thought that he picked up the ball and it felt like it belonged in the same world and it was exploring some similar ideas. Oh, just the Neil Gaiman part of Miracle Man. It's not a bad idea for an episode. Not a bad idea at all. You won't believe these top 10 Thanos moments. Number 6 will shock you. It was the Thanos copter. Can you believe it, folks? He had a helicopter. Yeah, I did do an episode where I talk about the Thanos copter, but it was in the context of reviewing the actual Spidey super stories. It's hopefully just a little bit more than just saying, like, how about this ridiculous thing that Thanos did? Okay, next time. Do I do commissions? Not usually, because I usually don't have time. I'm not against the idea, but I just don't have the time. Lowell, to answer your questions, Art Adams, Frank Cho, absolutely are people that I would love to cover. Thoughts on the Joker movie? I didn't care for it that much. I thought that it was well acted. I thought that it was pretty accurate take on, like, mental illness and stuff. I didn't see the need for it to be a Joker movie because to me it felt like it was just a complete rehash of stuff I've seen before. Specifically, King of Comedy is the one that's it's pretty much just like a retread of that. Cheesecake artist tropes would do well with an extra bouncy thumbnail. Yeah, and I'm not against it talking about cheesecake artists, not at all. Like, there's some that I like Frank Cho quite a bit. Like, he's a good artist. I don't know if the Thanos copter was ever created by a toy company. It definitely wasn't back when it was put in the comics. Hello, Terry. Hello, Jeremy. Yeah, I understand what you're talking about, Captain Negativity. It's true that, like, the what do you call it? The Miracle Man story never quite wrapped up. That's definitely the truth. Well, thanks, Mr. Toast. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's really nice to hear. Let's see. I've got like the sniffles for some reason. Might be a little sick, honestly. Adam Hughes is really talented. I'd love to do an Adam Hughes episode sometime. Yeah, he's had a really interesting career. Do I think DC is overly obsessed with apes and monkeys? Maybe in the 50s and there, but not so much anymore. A remote control Thanoscopter? Sold. Do I have any nice looking omnibuses? I don't typically get them. I'm trying to think. The only thing I can think of is I'm just like looking behind me because I know since I was proofreading all of Kirkman's books, I think he sent me all of the Invincible ones, but I've sort of put them in different places because you just put them wherever. I don't have them organized or anything. So I've got the Invincible ones just because I got sent those for proofreading it. Any new artists you're following? Yeah, there are. I've realized that there's like a certain style that I really like, and these artists are pretty different, but I see some similarities there. I've always liked Stuart Immonen, and I've always liked Sean Gordon Murphy, and I'm starting to see a new generation of artists that have some of that same approach in terms of line work, and I don't know how else to describe it yet. I'd have to give that some thought to put it into words. But Pepe Larraz and who... Now the name's popping out of my head, but the two artists that worked on House of X and Powers of 10, and Mahmoud Asrar as well, those are some artists that I do feel like, I think that they must have been influenced by Stuart Immonen. They must have been. They all seem to share a lot that's in common with him. That could be an interesting thing to talk about. But anyway, have I read any of the Invader Zim comics? Have you ever watched Invader Zim? No to both. Sorry. Stick to what I do. Okay. Yeah, I know Wes Craig's art. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of Rick Remender, so definitely read Deadly Class, and Wes Craig did a great job there. I watched the G1 Transformers episode with Omega Supreme and the Constructicons, and it was a well-written ep, but really badly animated. Yeah, that was something I didn't really pick up on as a kid, because I was a massive fan of Transformers when I was in grade school. But some of those episodes had some questionable at best artwork. Definitely not too strong. It really depended on which animation studio it got sent to. So there's an episode of Transformers that I once reviewed for a website I used to write for. It had the most animation errors of any Transformers episode. I'm trying to think of what it was called. Let me think, because I think it's a pretty funny article. Let me see if I can find it. What was the name of that episode? Maybe if I look up animation errors, I can find a link to that thing. Let's see. Hello, Bomac. Hello, Eric. Could I do a video on my Hot Toys? Yeah, actually, that would be a lot of fun. I would just need to sort of organize them a little more than what I have now, because a bunch of them are just like just sort of boxed up right now. I still haven't unboxed them since moving into my new, it's still pretty new, house. Ever draw in a graphite or realistic style? I do, BJ, when I go to life drawing sessions and stuff. Yeah, I like working with different materials, charcoal, graphite. I like challenging myself to break out sort of what I'm comfortable with. was that episode? Fourth World is very underrated concept in my opinion. Yeah, Fourth World is dope. Do you know any creator-owned comics that you can recommend? Yeah, I mean, I would say that, like, almost anything that Rick Remender works on right now, I would recommend. Definitely Seven to Eternity is a strong one to take a look at right now. I like Kirkman, obviously. I know that, like, this is bias. I'm friends with these guys, but Oblivion Song's totally worth a read. There's a cool book called Last Stop on the Red Line by a guy named Paul Mayberry. That's a pretty cool horror book set in Boston. Do you also draw? Do most inkers draw? Well, I mean, I draw in the sense that I'm drawing right now. I've had some work published. I don't like work as an illustrator full time. See ya, Retro. It's not Child's Play, Iron Shell. No, that's not the one I'm thinking of. Do most inkers draw? Yes. Yes. Have I read Sweet Tooth? Yeah, I have. Sweet Tooth is definitely an interesting book. Jeff Lemire, right? That's what you're talking about? I've definitely read that. Cool sort of post-apocalyptic story where there's still hope. I feel like a lot of post-apocalyptic stories don't have as much hope as that sort of does, if that makes sense to anyone. I'm really obsessed with figuring out this episode. And then I'll go back to drawing and answering questions as well. I cannot find it. Why? Oh, here it is. I found it. It's called Carnage in C minor. Okay? We were talking about animation, like bad animation, specifically in Transformers. And so if you look up in Google The Robot's Pajamas, because that was the name of the site, just all one word, The Robot's Pajamas, Transformers, Carnage in C minor, you'll find an article I wrote back in 2015. On November 10th? Isn't today November 10th? Exactly 4 years ago today I published this. It's not really a drawing class, General. It's just me doodling and talking to you guys. Just talking. Hello, Watchful and Harmonious. Anyway, like, there's some really hilarious animation errors in this thing. Like, first of all, like, just size. Like, you've got, like, Soundwave and all of the Constructicons as Devastator at the same size. Got, like, weird things, like a guy just turning into a battleship and crashing on top of someone. It just comes out of nowhere. And then he just stands up out of the wreckage. It makes no sense. They just, like, awkwardly, like, will have, like, weird animation, like, just waving to each other. Like, robots will just, like, wave to each other. And as a kid, I was always, like, confused. They've got, like, Decepticons that like, drawn alongside Transformers that were established to be dead, all together on the same team. What else do I say? Like, there was one that really made me laugh. I'm trying to, like, okay, yeah. Galvatron and Soundwave are two bad guy Decepticons. They start flying away, and they hold hands. Like, this animation studio had no idea what they were doing. Like, these guys just sort of grab hands and fly away holding hands. It's so weird. Carnage in C minor. Hilarious episode of Transformers. I'm going to switch back to my pencil for a minute. Actually, you know what I'm going to do instead? I'm going to take this eraser and erase all these body details because I've decided to have like a flowing shirt, and so you're just not going to see any of them, and I don't want that to distract us. I think that still looks cool. I don't think you need all those details. Yeah, I've seen Super. My friend Phoenix Jones had a small part in it. Day Tripper. Is that by Gabriel Ba and Fabian Moon? I think so. If so, I've seen it. I've read it, but it's been a long time. Let's see. I'm just trying to look at Zarana's costume to try to, like, sort of make sure I get this right, and because she's kind of got a weird outfit. It's got like this weird sort of textured ribbing. And I just need to make sure I do this like in pencil before I commit to pen, ink. Who am I sketching tonight? Zarana. I'll just write that. Zarana from G.I. Joe. Bad guy. Bad guy character. I'll be in Japan pretty soon. Definitely very, very excited about that. And got plans to record an episode that I am hopeful will be something special. We'll see. You know, fingers crossed. But yeah, it should be good. It should definitely be good. Happy Veterans Day. Yeah, it's Happy Veterans Day, folks. Good day to be drawing something like this. Oh, a bunch of new folks jumped in. Hello. Hello, General Ursus. Yeah, Phoenix Jones is a real-life superhero, and you can watch an episode I did talking about Batman, and I interview, like, Phoenix Jones side by side. And I used to patrol with him back in the day, so someday maybe I'll make a comic about those silly days where I was patrolling as a superhero for a year and getting into fights and stuff. Do I have a favorite bat suit? Yeah, I do. And I think it's the one that's closest to the one that Frank Miller did in Dark Knight Returns. I like the gray with the black bat emblem, not the yellow background. I just like how that bat emblem is drawn. I don't necessarily prefer my Batman to be old and quite that thick and chunky, but I like that bat suit. I like that one a lot. I was not his psychic, no. I did patrol with Phoenix. Yeah, I've talked about this in a couple live streams before. I always forget like who I've talked about it with and who I haven't. But I was Omega, so if you ever look up, I don't know, like, you know, we've had a couple documentaries, of course, like made about us and stuff. When I did that, that was a long time ago now. But yeah, I used to do that. It was silly. At the time, I was, you know, I'd been taking Krav Maga for several years, and I was like hitting the gym for like 2 hours a day. I was doing like the insanity workout. I'd been doing that like every day for like a year and a half, and then I had a personal trainer that I'd had for a couple years. So I was just in much different physical shape than I am now before I moved out here, and that sort of like all went by the wayside. But what can I say? Like, I was just in much better physical shape, so I decided to start doing that. And because I moved out here, I moved across the country, and I didn't really know anybody. I didn't know too many people. And Phoenix was somebody that I had interviewed like a year or so before I moved out here for like that website that I was just talking about that I used to write for. So I just sort of, it was like an evolution. It was just like he was one of the few people that I knew, so I started patrolling with him. Do I own a comic shop? No, I definitely do not. Hello, James. Did I hit people with a pipe wrench? No. Oh, Super. The movie Super, right. Shut up, crime. No. Do I want to own one? Not necessarily. I think that like a lot of people that decide to become comic book store owners do it because they love comics. Totally fine. But I think that they often forget like to be businessmen first and then a fan second. And I don't necessarily want to do that. I want to remain a fan. You know, you can't just order comics that you like if that's going to just end up becoming back issue filler that isn't getting sold. That's just a waste of money. So you have to make some really ruthless decisions if you decide to become a comic book store owner. And I guess I just don't want to do that. so I don't have a lot of interest in running a comic book store. I've thought about it once or twice and just sort of said, nah, I don't think that's quite the path that I want to go down. You've been following some of my recommendations. Gigano thing. Thank you. Adrian Tomine, Hernandez Brothers, and Charles Burns. I love all of them. I've met all of them at the Small Press Expo. When I lived in close to DC, I used to go to a convention there called the Small Press Expo every year. I loved that thing. That's my personal favorite convention. The passion that you will see on display for like self-published and small press stuff is just second to none. It's such a creative and intensely life-affirming environment. Like, people there love comics. They love the medium of comics, what you can do storytelling wise, and definitely respect all of those creators that you just mentioned. Met them, met Harvey Pekar, met Frank Miller, Paul Pope, met so many amazing creators. Brian Lee O'Malley from Scott Pilgrim, Craig Thompson from Blankets. Met all these guys, and you're meeting them in a much more intimate environment where you can have conversations and talk about comics. If you ever get an opportunity, I'm not talking about just a small convention, I'm talking about a small press convention, because there's Ape, there's Mice, there's Mocha, there's the Small Press Expo, SPX. An amazing experience that will really help you find new comics that you love. Let's see. Gene says, last night on our way to a friend's house, we saw a car with the license plate McLovin. That's awesome. I haven't read Clumsy. No, Hunter, I haven't. The award at SPX, a brick. Yeah, it's based on Crazy Cat. Crazy Cat would get a brick to the head from Ignatz the Mouse, so they call the awards the Ignatz Awards, and it's a brick. Yeah. I don't know what Brian Lee O'Malley's up to right now. It's a good question. I don't know. My personal favorite era or decade for DC Comics, it's going to be the 80s. It's going to be the 80s. They were unbeatable at the time. It was amazing. They just, everything DC was doing in the mid-80s specifically was just phenomenal. That was when you were getting not just Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, you were getting Batman Year One. You were getting just so many amazing, wonderful, wonderful books. You had Alan Moore on Swamp Thing. They were finding so many new talented people from Europe. The European invasion. It was great. It was great. Do I think Colin Farrell is a good choice to play Penguin? I think he's a really talented actor, as long as he has the right material. He can go way over the top, something Bullseye in that terrible Daredevil movie. I don't think that's going to, impress anyone. But then you see him in something like The Lobster or in Bruges, and you're like, Colin Farrell's a really talented actor. And so it really just all depends on the director and the script. And if those are there, Colin Farrell can make pretty much anything work. I'm serious. He's really, really talented. Favorite manga? Akira. Yeah, Akira. For what's coming out today, right now, My Hero Academia. Hello, Lord Overlord. That's a cool name. Yeah, he was perfect in Bruges, exactly. I was born in 89, so I wouldn't know. Well, you can always go back and read stuff that from before you were born. It's still definitely entertaining. Duncan Jones would support a Bowie movie written by Neil Gaiman. I'd give it a try. Favorite and least favorite My Hero Academia characters. Lately, one of my favorites has definitely become Tsuya, Froppy. I guess I kind of always liked her, but I don't know. She's just so positive and has the quietly heroic. So I like her a lot. I don't know. Do I have a least favorite character? I don't know that there's a character that annoys me, really. I don't necessarily get the whoever that perfect kid is, like Lamille or 1 million, something like that. I don't necessarily quite get him, but I don't dislike him. He is still heroic. I don't know. Uraraka. Yeah, she's great. She's awesome. Still trying to adapt Akira into live-action motion picture. What's your take on that? Lemillion. Yeah, that's it. Mirio. Thank you. Those were the names of him that I was struggling for. I don't know that Akira could successfully be adapted into just a single live-action movie. Maybe. I mean, the anime did work, I would say, but I think it still could have benefited from more time. Having reread Akira recently, the movie Akira is basically just like the first 2 volumes out of like 6. That's about it. Like, like there's a little bit taken from some of the later volumes, but there's so much to that story, and they really condense it. Whatever happened to the character Azrael? I don't know where he is right now. Yeah, I've read and seen Guyver. Not the anime, but I have seen the live-action movies, which is probably not the most accurate adaptation, but I kind of like the second one. Kind of over-the-top R-rated Power Rangers. It's the best way to describe it. Like spandex and kaiju suits and stuff, but yeah. But violent. Very violent. With Mark Hamill and David Hayter. Well, David Hayter was in the second one. Mark Hamill was in the first one, but yeah. Changing Japan for New York? That doesn't sound like a strong idea. There'd have to be a good reason for it. Yeah, you got it, Iron Shell. I mean, you're talking about 2 movies, yeah. Mark Hamill in The Guyver, yeah, but he was just like an FBI agent or a CIA agent, something along those lines. He was not like the Guyver or anything. Just I went in thinking that he was going to be the main character. He was not. I would say that was kind of like Mark Hamill's low point. He'd just sort of take what he could get, and the material he was getting wasn't that strong. I'd say overall he's definitely doing better now. I will say this, though. He pretty much, like, he always gives 100%. He does. Like, there's nothing where you say, like, Mark Hamill phoned it in. Some of the material that he has to work on, not that strong. There's plenty of, Corvette Summer is not a movie anyone remembers. But he always gives it his all, and I like that. If you ever listen to the radio adaptations of the Star Wars movies, Mark Hamill still voices Luke Skywalker, and he commits to it. It's amazing. He does a great vocal performance. You remember Corvette Summer? Yeah. Yeah, Corvette Summer was a movie that he made. I think he made it between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, if I'm remembering right, because he definitely. I could be confusing this with real life, but Mark Hamill was in a serious car accident, and if you look, like, his face changes at a certain point. And in fact, that's why at the beginning of the movie Empire Strikes Back, he gets hit by a wampa right away. It's to sort of explain why he doesn't quite look the same. His nose got, like, fixed and like after a very serious car crash. And I can't remember if that happened on the set of Corvette Summer or if that just was a car accident. It's been too long, but I think it happened on the set of Corvette Summer. Do you watch any new radio dramas like We're Alive? No, I can't say that I listen to any radio dramas. I mean, there are podcasts I still listen to, but I don't know that I listen to any drama podcasts right now. The last, well, wait a minute. There was one for, there was a good adaptation not too long ago for Lock and Key. I listened to that. And that was a podcast, basically, but it was also a radio drama with good actors and stuff. That was pretty cool. So sometimes, yeah. When I was younger, I would listen to a bunch of the radio dramas that they make for Doctor Who, because it was just always kind of cool how, for the audio dramas, they'd keep bringing back the actors that played like the Doctor or played his companions and stuff. That was always really fun and exciting, I think, as a fan to get to have more adventures with like these characters that you kind of grow to love. Some of them like had better radio stories than TV stuff, because like the sixth and eighth Doctor anyway. Favorite Soundwave cassette? Ravage, no question. Hamill had a car accident right after he filmed the pilot for 8 is Enough. Oh, okay. Okay, so I confused some of that a little. Thanks for clearing that up. Hello, Jeff. There's a great radio drama written by Neil Gaiman in Seeing Ear Theater. It's a dark retelling of Snow White. Oh, that's cool. No, I didn't see the Doom Patrol TV series. I didn't subscribe to like the DC streaming service. I've heard great things about it, honestly, and I wish I could sort of afford to get every streaming service that interests me, but obviously you have to sort of pick your battles. There's so many different streaming services. I did sign up for Disney Plus, so 2 days, just over one now. Will I cover the comic The Nam? I'm not against the idea. If I talk about Michael Golden, I would talk about The Nam. Oh, it'd be more than 100 a month, I think, Jeremy. I think it'd be well more than 100 if you subscribe to all the different streaming services out there. I mean, CBS and NBC have them, and obviously there's Hulu, and I don't know. There's just a million of them out there. It's just too much. Can't do it. Just can't do it. Have I heard the rumor that Golden did an issue from a Daytona Beach jail? No, I have not heard that. Will I cover any of the Planet of the Apes comics? No immediate plans. No immediate plans. First 3 episodes of Watchmen is pretty good. Yeah. I've heard good things about it, but I heard this, and it might just be a rumor. I heard that they were developing the show and then like just sort of realized that it was actually had some similarities to Watchmen, so they decided it would be cheaper to just get the license essentially and just like call it Watchmen than like rejigger their show. I don't know if there's truth to that or not because I haven't seen it, but that was a rumor I heard. Again, let me make it very clear. I am just restating a rumor that I heard. That could be completely wrong. Favorite Hulk personality? Well, I don't know, but these days it's starting to be Immortal Hulk, the Destroyer Hulk. But I like Joe Fixit a lot. Joe Fixit's pretty interesting. The best thing to happen to the Hulk, in my opinion, was when they just flat out decided, yeah, this guy has dissociative identity disorder, because he became a lot more interesting once you could like actually say that they were separate characters. What's my spirit animal? A sloth. I love them. They're so adorable and so slow and lazy. Yeah. There's something about the sloth that sounds like it's my spirit animal. Aminal? I kind of got some of those words out. That'll work for the purposes of today's discussion. So, a bunch of people at my work saw that little short film that I had a tiny role in, and they've asked me to host the Christmas party this year, because we have like a few hundred people like show up to it, and we give away prizes and stuff, so there needs to be an MC, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'm a ham. I like attention. I can dig that. Planet Hulk was my favorite. Planet Hulk is dope. Do you think Superman is still selling? I don't see his books out there anymore. Yeah, Superman definitely sells pretty well. That's what you were going to say for Eugene? That's funny. What's my favorite funny animal character? That's an interesting question. Who's my favorite funny animal character? It might be Bugs Bunny. Sometimes he's annoying, but most of the time, I think that they do some pretty fantastic stuff with like animation and stuff, so that like, the early Looney Tunes stuff is pretty good. It's pretty creative. So that's who I'll say. Say Bugs Bunny. Rocket Raccoon. Do the people at work know about comic tropes? I think almost all of them do. I don't talk about it, but it gets around a lot. Like, I'm pretty sure they do. Like, a lot of my coworkers tell me, "Oh, I watched your episode. Blah blah blah. I liked it." So that's nice. It's very flattering to hear that, like, somebody is watching your stuff and saying something kind. It's a little weird, but I'm used to it now. Yeah. I mean, you work with these people like day in and day out. You spend like, honestly, like most of your day, your waking day with them. So it's kind of hard like to keep secrets from each other. It's not like we tell each other everything, but like a lot of the big stuff comes out. Like, what kind of relationship status you have, or like where you live, or what you did for school. Like all that stuff comes out. What's the story about the Walking Dead car? Oh, yeah. So in 2014, the TV show Walking Dead formed a partnership with Hyundai, and they made a bunch of limited edition Hyundai Tucsons. They call them the Walking Dead edition. It basically comes with all the bells and whistles, a four-wheel drive SUV, and we got one at work. So that was kind of funny. I got to show it to a customer, and when I told the customer, oh, by the way, I actually was the proofreader for Walking Dead from the beginning to the end. I was the guy that, like, named the letters column and this, that, and the other. Not impressed at all. Only watched the show. Could not care less about the comic. But, like, yeah, there's, like, a photo of me, like, that's the back badge, the Walking Dead Special Edition, and here's what it looks like. It's a regular Hyundai Tucson, except it's got, like, these sort of things painted on the sides. It's a really nice paint job, but it's, like, zombie arms, like, reaching up and stuff. So it's got a kind of almost a red racing stripe. Replicas of Kaneda's bike. Now, that's something I'd love to work. Did I have to work today? No, I didn't have to work today. I worked yesterday. and I go back to work tomorrow. I get 1 day off. 1 day off, and that's enough, I guess. It is what it is. Sometimes I wish I could have a little more time off, but gotta pay the bills. YouTube ain't doing it yet. Hello, Rishi. As a kid, did you get your comics off the rack, 7-Eleven or Circle K? I lived in a smaller town that didn't necessarily have, 7-Eleven, but I did get them at a similar type of convenience store. It was like a family-owned joint called Tedeschi's, and basically what happened was I had a couple paper routes, and when I'd finish them, I'd end sort of at the center of town, and I'd be near Tedeschi's. Most of the time, I didn't do anything about that, but like once a week, you'd sort of, make your collections, you'd get paid. So I'd have a bunch of cash in my pocket, and I might get myself like a piece of candy or like a soda or something. And one day I saw like a Transformers comic in there, and I was really into Transformers. Keep in mind, I was like 10. I was like 10 years old. Yeah, Gene remembers, Tedeschi's. No, they didn't care about the comic at all, Gene, just to be clear. And so anyway, I saw a Transformers comic, and I was like, oh, cool, more stories about Transformers. I love Transformers. So I picked it up, I bought it. At the time, I didn't know what a good comic or a bad comic was. I just knew it was more Transformers stories, and I thought that was cool enough. Did that for like a couple weeks or something, and eventually was like, I like reading these stories, and there's tons more options here. So I knew who Spider-Man was. I'd never read a comic, but there's the cartoon, and he's in the pop culture and stuff. I'd always liked Spider-Man. And it was the Kraven's Last Hunt storyline, and I picked that up, and I was like, this is so cool. And so that's sort of like what led me to, and also G.I. Joe. I also tried G.I. Joe, and the G.I. Joe comic I quickly realized was like, it actually interested me. It wasn't just stories. Like Transformers was like, yeah, I guess that's like more stories with some of these characters. But the G.I. Joe comic was actually well done, like good artwork, great writing. So that's how I got into comics. And yeah, they had an old-fashioned spinner rack. That was cool. That was really cool. I loved that. Lucked out with the Kraven pick. I know. What am I trying to improve this month? Well, I'm not doing it tonight, but speed. I owe a friend a page of artwork, and I've done it. But personally, I don't really like the final result, so I'm seeing if I can get another day or two to like redo it completely. I just feel like I just didn't quite nail it the way it was in my head. It's a little tricky because it's a lot of story for just one page. It should really be 2 pages, but we just don't have 2 pages, so just trying to make it work. We'll see. So yeah, just sort of trying to work on speed. But even though those folks were thoroughly unimpressed with me having worked on the comic book The Walking Dead, I've been doing really, really well at work lately, which is nice, because I feel like, here on Comic Tropes, like the last couple of weeks, not quite getting the viewership that I'd hoped for some reason. So that's like a little disheartening. But fortunately at work, I'm doing excellent. Selling tons and tons of cars, and yeah, I'm like number 1 at the store right now for the month, so like on everything. It feels good. It feels real good to be doing all right somewhere. You got into comics because of the Marvel trading cards? Totally get that. Yep, I remember that issue of Swamp Thing, Jeremy. That was a good one. Don't really remember the first comic I got. Oh, really? Yeah, I totally remember the first one I bought. Thoughts on Tetsuo's character from Akira? He's a total jerk. He's the worst. In the movie, I felt sympathetic to him, but in the comic, he's terrible. Thanks, Gene. Appreciate the kind words. Yeah, I've been doing really, really well at work, so that's always nice. Definitely gonna feel a bit of relaxing once I go on this trip, though. Um, can't get here fast enough. One thing we were just talking about tonight is Chrissy and I are thinking of taking a class when we're in Japan to learn how to make our own soba noodles from scratch. That could be fun, I think. Congrats on being number one. Thanks, JoJo. I was going to call you this afternoon, but I figured you were working. I wasn't working, but we had Chrissy's folks over, so we were pretty busy today. Water sound. I've got a little water fountain here that my cats can drink from. So that's what you're hearing. I've been curious for your perspective. Do you think graphic novels have a place in the public school classroom? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, not every graphic novel, but I mean, if you're going to tell me that there's something inappropriate or that you couldn't learn something from, say, Mouse, I'd say you're crazy. Depending on the maturity of the students involved, and that can depend on, like, age and education level and stuff like that. I think that there's a lot of comics out there that they could definitely learn quite a bit from. Yes, comics are definitely literature, and I'll get like really pissed off if people try to argue that that is not the case. I really will. Mouse is a great example. Mouse is like the sort of like, how could you object to that? I don't know. How could you object to that? But there's plenty of others. It really all depends on what they're learning. But yeah, I would say like there's so much to learn from comics. Certainly, almost everything like nonfiction. There's plenty of nonfiction comics out there. March. You want to put like, as a kid, I think that like history in public schools can be a very difficult subject to excel at because you're mostly just being told facts, and you're like, this is the year that this war started, this was the effect, it ended at this point. That's kind of what you're tested on, like you're like, understand these terms and these dates. But does that really, it's hard to engage with that kind of material. You're just like, this is a fact, memorize it. It can be hard. If you can put that into actual context, like once you become an adult and you can just read anything from history that you want, you're going to find all sorts of interesting books about time periods and people, and you're hearing usually something like a first-hand account or a second-hand account. It's much more relatable. It's much more real. There's a narrative, a through line to it, so it becomes more interesting. And I would say that there are a lot of comics that can help, like with history, like March, that trilogy of books really helps you understand not just what happened during the civil rights, like marches and stuff like that in the 60s, but just how dangerous it was for the people, how specifically they had to communicate and organize these events and prepare for like what could happen. And you're like, okay, well, now you're telling me a story. And I think that would get like a lot of people interested when you read that kind of stuff. There's a recent news case where a 6th grader showed her mother Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, where a character talks about how big her breasts are, and she got it from the school library. Okay. I don't know that one, but she's in 6th grade. Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein. Sure. More examples like that? Off the top of my head, I'm not like thinking of it necessarily, but there's plenty of adaptations of classic literature. Dracula and Frankenstein. I don't know if there's been an adaptation of something like, Tale of Two Cities, but, there's There's certainly been adaptations of literature. There's been comics that tell non-fiction stories. There's been comics that just tell solid stories and are about something specific to that era. Like if you're going to read Watchmen, you're going to get a sense of like where we were politically in the 80s. It's interesting. Mid-80s specifically. Anyway. I don't know if this drawing's actually going anywhere or not, but let me switch to a different pen. Alright, let's see what else is being asked. Excuse me, there was a comic version of Tale of Two Cities? There you go. Where do I buy my art supplies? Primarily, I just go to a local store called Artists and Craftsmen. It's not the most, it's okay price-wise. It's okay. You can get it cheaper online, but I usually, want my supply right away. I like being able to touch it and stuff like that, so I usually go to that store. I think I'll, hit one of my favorite art supply stores in Tokyo called Sakaido, and one cool thing there is they sell a lot of zipatone, or just pattern sheets, and maybe I'll try to get a bunch this time. Just realized you were streaming. I had just found out your video based on the comic book Bone. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. Showing the students barefoot Jen when discussing Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Maybe. Maybe. There's a comic that I read. Trying to remember what it was. It was a non-fiction based on somebody developing comics back in post-war Japan, 1950s. It's called A Drifting Life. It's been a little while since I read it, but that's an interesting one. Have your cats ruined the furniture at your new place? No. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. What's my favorite duet song of the past? Duet song? Jeez. Ask me a tough one. Boy, I'm off the top of my head, I'm hard pressed to think of many duets, honestly. I like the recent one that Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga did based on The Shallows. Or not based on, called The Shallows. I like that one, but what's another good duet? I'm feeling like there should be... Oh, I know. There's been a bunch of stuff by, Johnny Cash and his wife June. I don't know. I don't know that I could even pick a favorite, to be honest. It's interesting that, I think of duet and my mind keeps going to country. I can think of, ones where, other artists, jump in and sing, along. I don't know. Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers, yeah. Total Eclipse of the Heart. But Total Eclipse of the Heart is just all one person. Fave MCU film? Winter Soldier. Alright, see you, Bane. See you, Bane. You merely adopted comics as an educational form. I was born to them. Uh-oh, I might talk like Bane the rest of the night, folks. This is going to be fun. I didn't realize we had a guy in here actually called Bane. They call me Bane. Any podcasts you listen to? Harmontown, all the time. If I have extra time, I like Improv for Humans. I like comedy podcasts a lot. Sometimes I'll get into crime podcasts, but I'm not listening to one currently. I listen to some true crime podcasts. We'll see you, Bane, but will we see you alive? I'm not actually threatening you. I just don't know what I'm saying. Hello! You have to cover your mouth so that it echoes if you want to do a proper Bane. The dollop. I have gone to the Found Footage Festival, JoJo. It was a blast. I love that thing. What made you think of that? But yeah, I have been to it. It's really cool. It's hilarious. What a beautiful voice. Fave thing the 86 Transformers movie did. I don't know, give us some pretty good animation. The Devastator versus Dinobots fight was pretty awesome. Bane and Adam West, Islands in the Stream. There you go. You just went to it last week. Ton of fun. Figured you'd be into it. Definitely am. I don't think I have them anymore, but at one point I had all of their DVDs for Found Footage Festival. I'm pretty sure, just in the effort of like condensing like stuff when I moved across the country, I believe I donated all of those to Goodwill. Or gave them away to a friend. One or the other. Did the Beatles ever have a comic book? I don't think they ever had an official comic book. I definitely can't think of one. And I think I would know if they did. I'm pretty sure I would know. I can't think of one. They gave us the touch. The touch is a beautiful thing. Did you know about their Chop and Steel characters? I don't know if I do. I'll look it up. There was a comic version of the Sgt. Pepper movie. Oh, all right. I'll look it up. I didn't know about that. Who's this you're drawing? I guess you can't see it very well. Zarana from G.I. Joe. Well, specifically Cobra, but, well, specifically the Dreadnoks. It's just a punk biker girl. Dangerous. Master of disguise. Expert with small weapons. Gonna give her like shaved hair on the side, I think. Feels like that's something she would have if she was around today. She more had like a mohawk back in the 80s, but we're past the 80s now. I think she'd shave her head. At least on the side. I'm drawing while listening to you. That's awesome, Baxter. Punk biker girls are the best girls, yeah. What new books have I been reading? I haven't really been reading any books. I just haven't had the time. Been very, very busy with work and comic tropes and then like Inktober. So while I love reading, unfortunately right now there's no books that I'm reading. I know I have some stacked up somewhere like on a to be read list, but right now I'm not reading one. For comics, I'm reading like whatever kind of potential topics are coming up, and I don't want to like necessarily spoil that. And then like I'm reading Hickman's X-Men and Immortal Hulk, Criminal, Curse of the White Knight, My Hero Academia, a few other things that just aren't popping into my head right now just because it's getting late. But yeah, not a lot. I don't read a lot of stuff regularly, like every week or every month. I don't read a lot right now. Kind of just wait for it to be collected into trade paperbacks. Pick it up that way these days. It seems to work best. I'm gonna sneeze. Ugh. Recently discovered your channel. It's really good and something I was really looking for. Well, that's really nice to hear. Thanks, Uncanny Comics. What do I think of Jim Woodring? That's a funny question that you asked that. I like Jim Woodring. Met him at a small press expo. Chrissy, my fiance, babysat for his kids a few times. So she knows him a little bit. I don't know if he would remember her now, because it's definitely been many years. But she did know him. And she was a babysitter for him. So one time at an SPX, I got one of his art books signed and reminded, and it was for Chrissy, and I just like told him who she was, and he knew who I was talking about. But that was also a few years ago from now, so would he still remember? I don't know. Small world, isn't it? I'm curious about what paper you're using. Cool. I'm happy to share that with you, Chris. It's by Borden and Riley, and it's called number 234 Paris paper. A lot of people like Bristol, and I do too, but this is very smooth, and it's really good at taking ink and Copic markers, things like that, and not bleeding. So I'm really impressed with it. It's something I really, really like. Very bright and white, smooth, but doesn't smudge. You know, like I'd drawn this with an underlayer of pencil, and I'm like rubbing my thumb across it, and it's not really smudging. So that's just nice. Yeah. Can you use non-pens on that paper? Yeah, I did the underdrawing in pencil, so like it definitely takes pencil just fine. Something I've sort of fallen in love with in the last couple years. Personally, I find that it's like easier to draw with pen on it than pencil, but I don't want to like I'm not confident enough to just draw straight from ink. I need to like, you know, do some under drawings, and then usually what I do for like these sessions is I then light box it so that it's on something a little more clean, and then I take it from there. That's my process for most of these videos. It's a small world until you try to balloon around it in 80 days. No, I've done it. Can do it in 60 yet. I have not been able to see The Lighthouse. I would love to see The Lighthouse and Parasite. Those are two movies high on my list. They're just not playing at a cinema that's very close to me, unfortunately. That's been like the biggest challenge, is just like they are playing sort of in the area, but not like super close. So ironically, I saw a movie, but like not like one of my first choices. There would be movies that I'd want to see before this. I saw the latest Terminator. You know, it was, I guess I would say it was like, it was fine. It was average. I didn't like it that much, but it wasn't like offensive. I'd say that it's the best of the Terminator movies after the first two, but that isn't really saying much, because I've really disliked all the other Terminator movies. But I like the first two Terminator movies so much, I kind of keep giving them a chance. And maybe that's, you know, shame on me at this point, but I just sort of want to recapture something from that world, and I haven't been able to, but I kind of keep trying, unfortunately. I really feel like I keep fooling myself. Wasn't offensive. Yeah, it's not worth paying money for. Here's, like, I have the chain here is called AMC, and if you pay like this monthly subscription, I think it's like $20 maybe, you can see 3 movies a week, like anything. And you know, so you're not like necessarily paying for a specific movie, you're paying for that service. Yeah, I wish Sarah Connor Chronicles had more seasons too. I'm a huge fan of that. Alien versus Predator versus Terminator review coming up. Probably not anytime too soon. Not against talking about something like that, but not in the near future. So yeah, unfortunately, just haven't seen J. Andrew World. Yeah, J. Andrew World used to be a regular here, and so did Craig, and what was his name? It was something like C. Kim. Those guys were regulars last year, anyway. I know that they're still on the Discord server, so I think they're still watching. I definitely appreciated having those guys around. I appreciate having all of you around. It's always nice to see regular names, that's all. Didn't like the new Terminator. They were pushing an open borders agenda. I don't know about that. I didn't get that out of it, but it just didn't go anywhere like that unique to me. So I was like, You know, the action was fine, but it was dumb. The new Terminator was pushing a lot of feminism. Well, I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, like, hasn't Terminator always done that? Sarah Connor is like one of like the most badass female characters out there. It's like either her or Ripley. It wasn't clever enough to push an agenda. That's kind of what I thought. Thoughts on Doctor Sleep? Have not seen Doctor Sleep. Wasn't necessarily planning on seeing Doctor Sleep. And then I've had two friends that have gone to see it that both said that they liked it quite a bit. And I'm like, well, all right, I guess I have nothing to lose by seeing it. Yeah, that sounds like an endorsement, doesn't it? All I can say is that, like, for Doctor Sleep, I don't care that it's like, you know, a new story from the perspective of like a new Stephen King story set in the world that he's done. But I do sort of care about the idea of a sequel to a Kubrick movie. Because Kubrick is possibly my favorite director. He's definitely way, way, way up there. And I thought The Shining was fantastic. And they seem to be positioning this movie as a sequel not just to the book, but kind of to the movie as well. There's certainly overt homages in the imagery. But, you know, maybe it'll be good. I don't know. I guess I've got nothing to lose by seeing it. It won't take away my love and appreciation for the Kubrick film. But that's why I wasn't originally planning on seeing it. I do like Ewan McGregor. He's a good actor. So maybe that'd be cool. What do you think about Stanley Kubrick's filming of the moon landing? Yeah, I've heard that. I'm not much of a conspiracy theory guy, so yeah. I also don't think Kubrick would be the guy you'd get to do it, because I don't think he would have any interest for any amount of money in participating in something like that. If you know anything about Kubrick. Definitely a man of his convictions, you know? So, it just doesn't make any sense for him to be the guy that would do it. I don't know why you'd want to take away one of mankind's greatest accomplishments like that, like coming up with that conspiracy theory. I think it's amazing that we figured out the technology to get somebody off of this planet up to a celestial object that we've all been looking at since the day we could, like, you know, give it a name. And, like, what an amazing accomplishment. And then to just sort of, like, try to take that away and go, it was faked. It's like, why would you take that away? Like, I'm not saying be blind or anything. I'm just saying it's such a weird thing to develop a conspiracy theory about. To, like, not want to believe in our intelligence and our braveness and stuff like that. We as humanity. I don't know. I don't get it. No, yeah, a bunch of medium shots. Exactly right, JoJo. Joe Hill does have a lot of similarities to his father. I agree. But I honestly think that Joe Hill might do better with his endings. Hello, codename New2Vero2. Oh, you codename New2Vero2. You do GI Joe content, right? I'm doing JoeVember. You do a channel about like GI Joe comics and stuff like that? I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that right. So welcome. If anybody here is a fan of GI Joe, like be sure to check that out. There's a lot of amazing GI Joe YouTube channels out there and you know what's amazing? There's a really amazing community within the GI Joe world, and I've been able to participate a little of it. Anybody that's been watching my channel knows that like in July of every year I participate with that community, and I do an episode based on something to do with GI Joe, and it's just a really friendly community that like collaborates very easily with each other, which is awesome. I wish that like that's some of my favorite stuff to do in comics, by the way, is collaborating. You know, I love it. I absolutely love collaborating and like, you know, trying to make a product better with just one or two voices, not like 20 voices, but like, you know, 2 or 3 clever people. I think will like elevate the material, and you just it's one of my favorite things about comic books, and you get to see that in the GI Joe fan community, especially the one on YouTube. Oh, thanks, Jeremy, saying that I love the G.I. Joe commercial you made. Thank you. Took a lot of time on that, so thank you so much for the kind words. That's awesome. And let's see, New2Vero2 says, yes, sir, about to upload a recap of the new non-Hama book and issue 267 coming up in a few days. Chris and HCC788, that's another YouTuber, have been huge friends and encouragement. Well, that's great. October was Inktober, November is JoeVember, what's December? I know, right? It feels like you're just constantly supposed to be creating art every day, as though we're like actual artists or something. FreezeVember. Alright, everybody, chill. Do you think alcohol is conducive to the creative process? What a loaded question, but a good one, Raoul. Do I think alcohol is conducive to the creative process? First of all, I will say it is not necessary. It definitely isn't. I would never want to encourage somebody that has an addictive personality to even try something like that. I wouldn't. But does it help? Yeah, it can. It can. What can I say? I mean, yeah, loaded. Thank you. Hello, Cara Bear, by the way. It's like this. It's like alcohol is a depressant, as in it depresses your inhibitions. It lowers them. And I think that when you lower your inhibitions, sometimes that can actually open the creative floodgates. It can hold you back. That can otherwise be holding you back. It can also make you tired or sloppy. So everything is like moderation, and that's going to be different for everybody. But can I like drink and sometimes produce a better script? Yes. Can I drink and produce better artwork? Not really. So it's kind of weird. I'm just saying I'm not against it. And if some people tell me that they like do drugs and that's what they need to like do their, you know, get their creative juices flowing, I'm like, look, that ain't for me. I just don't want to like cross that line. But I don't mind if somebody else does. Like that's their body, that's their choice, and I get it. Like, you know, if I could be promised that like doing cocaine, like I wouldn't overdose or something like that, I'd probably try it. I'm serious. I probably would. I'm not going to because I'm a wimp. I'm too scared. Just letting you know. I probably would try it. I got issue number 1 of New X-Men. I was so lost. I would just say that like if you read House of X and Powers of 10, 6 issues of each, that'll catch you up to speed on what the status quo is. Otherwise, if you keep reading, it'll probably start to also make sense. Can't OD on weed. No, that's true. Burroughs made a career out of writing on drugs. Sometimes you get some really interesting art. I'm gonna like wrap it up in just a sec, but I will say this: like when I was in the DC area, there's an amazing museum in Baltimore, and I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it's all artwork created by people that have either like brain trauma or mental illness, one or the other. And some of that artwork is astonishingly good. Anyway, no, I wouldn't challenge anyone to do cocaine. I would definitely not even encourage it. I'm just saying I understand it. That's all. There's lots of writers in TV and movies that like do drugs, and I'm like, sometimes they produce good work. It's not for me, but I get it. What G.I. Joe character is your favorite, and which is my least favorite? Favorite. I mean, probably gonna be Snake Eyes if I'm being honest. I think he's cool, but he does kind of need his supporting cast of like Stalker and Scarlet to like make him interesting. I'm also kind of a sucker for Flint and Shipwreck. Those are some characters that I really love. In terms of ones that I don't love, Serpentor, you know, kind of the goofy ones. Cesspool. Baroness next, maybe someday. Not healthy. Well, I'm not doing drugs, Gene. I'm like I say, I'm afraid of like what it could do to me. Weed does Kevin Smith no favors. I kind of agree. I think that Kevin Smith was a better storyteller before he started smoking copious amounts of weed. I do think he was better. Not perfect, but I think he was better. Do I do color? Sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I've got like Copics, or sometimes I'll use Photoshop. So, yeah, sometimes I will. Let me see if I've got like a pink, because Zarana like has like, you know, a pink top, and I'm not sure that I really have. Well, this is kind of pink, so I can just try to like add a little bit of color and see what that does for this this image. She's basically like pink and blue are her two colors. The real cool thing that you can do with like Copics specifically is you can blend them. So this is just doing a flat color right at this moment. But if I took out like my grays, I could like darken like shadowy areas to actually like blend it and give it more of a roundness, a three-dimensional look. So I'm a big fan of doing that kind of stuff with these guys. Kevin Smith has been smoking longer than you pricks have known his name. I mean, I remember going to see Clerks in the theater, so I don't know what you mean by that. What did he... and he wasn't smoking back then. I don't quite understand what you mean. I do think, like, you know, that his movies, like, you know, Clerks and Dogma were definitely... And even like Zack and Miri were superior to things like Tusk and Yoga Hosers. I don't know, that's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't dislike the guy or anything. My friend invited me to go see his recent movie, Jay and Silent Bob Rebooted, and I was like, yeah, I'll go see it. I'll give him a chance. But I don't think he's quite as strong as he used to be. His attempt at a TV show was a bit embarrassing. What TV show is that? Semantics. I'm sick of Kevin Smith. Yeah. I don't know if I'm sick of him. It's not for me anymore. That's all. It's just not for me anymore. Here's what I think he's done well. Kevin Smith now directs a good amount of TV. He works on a bunch of the CW shows. And I think he does a solid job working on stuff like, Supergirl, and I think he did Flash. I'm pretty sure that I've seen episodes by him on both of those things, and I'm like, yeah, that's some solid work. He's more than capable, He adds something to it. So, he's not untalented. It's just, I don't think he's as funny as he used to be. Kevin started smoking after the rap on Zach and Zach and Miri basically didn't do as well as he hoped, and he got depressed and he started smoking a bunch, and he was like, I love it. And more power to him. He's very successful and he's got loyal fans, so he can do whatever the hell he wants. But I just think he was funnier back in the day. Yeah, his Batman ones weren't too good. I thought that his he's written some good comics. I think his Daredevil stuff holds up pretty well. I think what else? His run on Green Arrow's okay. What else has he done? I don't know. I mean, he wrote a bunch of his own comics that were kind of funny. But his Batman stuff, I didn't care for at all. Like, no, just not for me. Anyway, I don't like to throw anybody under the bus. I'm just being honest about my opinions. Green Arrow was good. Yeah, Green... Is that gonna... Best art in a comic book. So arbitrary. I wouldn't know how to answer that. Sorry. If I could make a character into a TV show, what would it be? Yeah, I don't know. Did anyone like Tusk? I feel like I've heard one or two people say that they did. Not for me. So I'm not going to fully color this because I've got a few other things I need to do. Yeah, I've seen Smith speak in person. He's a funny storyteller. I just think he used to be a little stronger. But this is what you can do is I can now use these gray Copics to start defining some of this stuff a little bit more. Best black and white comic books. The original Ninja Turtles mean a lot to me, man. Blankets is way up there. Mouse. So many good black and white comics. More recently, I loved Walking Dead, but I'm biased there, so, don't necessarily take my opinion on that, but there's so many good black and white comics. Minus 20? Jeez, Rishi, that sounds cold. That sounds rough. Sin City, yeah, the original Sin City comics were really, really good. A buddy of mine was raving about Smith's Red State. I didn't care for that one. I definitely give him credit for trying something different. Didn't work for me. I was pretty bored and just felt, I don't know, just didn't do anything for me. I combine Sharpies, Copics, and colored pencils. That sounds like fun. Eastman and David Avalone have partnered together in drawing Blood. The dark side of being a famous comic book artist. When you talk about black and white, of course I keep thinking of manga, and there's one that I love called Bakuman, which is all about two kids fresh out of high school that decide to dedicate everything to becoming not just a comic book professional, but like the best in the field. And it's a really exciting and funny and charming journey. Definitely give that a strong recommend. Of course, it's unique to the Japanese comic market, but I think it's like fairly identifiable no matter like what kind of an artist you're attempting to be. Anyway, yeah, Bakuman. I definitely give that a recommend. A shonen battle manga about who is the best shonen battle manga creator? Yep, kinda. Prismacolor on top of Copics is a great money-saving hack. Huh, really? Being a car salesman, would you say you're good at reading people? I think I'm okay at it. I'm, you know, some people are probably more naturally adept at something like that. It depends on the circumstances. I can notice patterns in people. Maybe that's the best way of putting it. Anyway, that's the kind of thing you can do, and like obviously if I had more time I can blend it more. Chris is like the guy from Scanners. What, the guy that's like head's gonna explode? I don't know what to make of that. I'm like the guy from Scanners. A topless Zarana would have been excellent fan service. Supposedly there was going to be a topless Zarana scene in G.I. Joe the movie so that it could get a PG-13 rating, and that it was actually storyboarded that way. You can actually find those storyboards out there. That's not a rumor. That's a real thing. But cooler heads prevailed, and they realized it's not really what anybody is coming to a G.I. Joe movie for. So that sort of fell by the wayside. But at one point, it was an idea that Hasbro was ready to say, yes, this is what makes sense. This is what we should do. This is what the fans want. A little something for Dad while the kids get to go to the movies. I have mind powers over my customers. No, I don't think I talk them into anything that like they don't want to do. I'm pretty careful about that. Like that's important to me, not to like, you know, convince them of something they don't want to do. But I will push them outside of their comfort zone to consider certain things. So, yeah, like, that's all. One of the Joes had a romance with Zarana. Mainframe. I'm going to take off, folks. I had a good time chatting with everybody and doing this, but I'm going to take off. I got to feed my cats and... I don't know what else, but I've got to work on the next comic tropes. What am I thinking? I had a lot of fun talking to everybody. Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know how many people were in the chat, but it felt like a lot, and I got to meet a bunch of new people, which means a lot to me, and it's always a blast talking to folks that have been in here before. If I missed your question, my apologies. Obviously, whenever I do these, I'm sort of splitting my focus between what I'm like looking at drawing and then like trying to answer your chat questions. It's definitely nothing personal if I miss your chat question. Just want you to know that. 50 was the peak. That's okay. Yeah, I'm worried about my channel, folks. I am worried. I jumped into a live stream for a channel that I really appreciate, Cartoonist Kayfabe, and they instantly had like 125, 130 people in the chat room. But to be fair, they announced that well in advance, and they held it in the afternoon. I'm doing this like last minute without announcing, so maybe that's apples to oranges. Anyway, congrats again on being Ichiban Sarazuman. I probably mispronounced that, but I think it's something like #1. Thanks for being here, Gene. Anything we can do to help? No, just I appreciate everything you're already doing. You guys are watching and participating, and that means everything to me. I'm totally happy. If you haven't hit something like subscribe or the notification bell to know when my videos come out, that's something I could ask you to consider. And if you ever feel like a particular episode might be interesting to a friend or somebody that you know, sharing it, that's what helps me the most, organically just spreading the word. So anyway, thank you for asking. I'm going to take off now for real, and thank you, everybody. Oh, keep reading comics. That's my catchphrase, right? Yeah, keep reading comics, everybody. Bye.